Hello, Giants fans. Ed Valentine of Big Blue View here with your Day 2 New York Giants mandatory minicamp practice report. Was a light practice day for the Giants in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Head coach Brian Daboll sort of dialed back the intensity today. A lot of walkthrough periods, not a whole lot of real competitive portions of practice during the roughly 2 hours that the Giants were on the field. Daboll, in fact, had players at the very end of practice in the last team period. He actually had players remove their helmets in a walkthrough sort of installation period, for the last few minutes of the session. To be honest, that is something that I have never seen before in a practice with an NFL team, whether it be mini camp, whether it be OTAs, whether it be training camp. I've never seen that before. Covered the Giants since 2007. I've seen the Coughlin era, the McAdoo era, the Shermer era, the Joe Judge era. Never seen a period like that where a team removed a helmet. Daboll had been asked earlier in the day about the balance between getting guys reps, getting guys work, and the long view of making sure that they're ready for training camp, ready for games when it mattered. And he said that is a balance. He said you have to be smart. You have to know that this is still the early part of June, that this is not necessarily the time to push guys, not necessarily the time to say, I know you're hurting, but we need you to get out on the field and practice. Daboll admitted Wednesday that, there are roughly 15, 16 Giants right now practicing in red non-contact jerseys. Some of those guys are just working individual drills. Some of those guys are not really doing anything at all. A couple of them are even working in the team period. So they're all at different stages. But Daboll admitted with at least some of those guys that he would be pushing harder, for them to practice and do more if this was the regular season, if they were getting ready for games. He said that's the time to push. Now is not the time to push. And Wednesday's practice reflected Daboll's desire not to push too hard, to sort of dial back. To be honest with you, we haven't heard as of now, but I would not be shocked if the Giants actually cancel any on-field portions of Thursday's final day of minicamp. We talked to some of the players, and they were talking after practice. They were talking about the summer and being ready for training camp, and they were talking as if they felt like the off-season program was over with. So, and the way that practice was conducted today, it sort of felt like that. So I would not be shocked if the Giants actually cancel Thursday's part of the workout. Just a couple of notes from what we saw on Wednesday and on Tuesday as well. I've said many times that players don't win or lose jobs here during the off season. They don't win or lose jobs in OTAs or involuntary, or not voluntary, but mandatory minicamp. But what players can do is catch the attention of the coaching staff and put themselves in a better opportunity to make the roster when we get to training camp in July and August. And for me, one player who has absolutely done that is wide receiver Richie James, signed in the offseason as a free agent, from the San Francisco 49ers. James was on IR last season with a knee injury, showed in 2019 and 2020 that he can be a very useful the kickoff and punt returner. And in 2020 had more than I believe 23 receptions, showed that he's got the ability to be at least a backup wide receiver. And James is a guy who seems to fit the skill set that Brian Daboll is looking for. Daboll and the Giants drafted Wan'Dale Robinson, a smallish wide receiver, with position flex, who can run a lot of the jet sweep stuff, who can catch the ball out of the backfield, a guy who you want to scheme touches for on occasion, a guy that you want to get the ball to and let him work in space and let him get yards after catch for you. And Richie James is a lot the same type of player. We've seen James line up outside. We've seen him line up in the slot. We've seen him catch passes lined up out of the backfield as well. He's a guy who has really taken advantage of the fact that Kadarius Toney has not practiced, that Sterling Shepard is not ready to practice, that Kenny Golladay is only doing some individual work at the beginning of practice and not working in team periods. Richie James, for me, is a name to remember when you get to training camp in terms of figuring out who's got a shot at making the 53-man roster. If I was Darius Slayton, I would be paying attention to the work that that Richie James has done here during the offseason program, because James has definitely put himself in position to be a serious contender for a roster spot. All right, Giants fans, the offseason program, mandatory minicamp, ends on Thursday. Big Blue View is not going to be in attendance on Thursday, but we'll still have details on whatever does happen on Thursday. We'll have lots of coverage throughout the off season. So please, stay with us as we continue to get you ready for training camp, as we continue to profile players and through the 90-man roster, continue to give you as many features as we can. We'll have as many interesting guests here as we possibly can. Please like or subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and you subscribe if you're listening on our podcast. Please, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you as always for your support, Giants fans, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.